Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Beautiful sunny UK. We are in our garage again, DAG Technic West Midlands, and in last video we were working on the S4B5 engine. So last time we were checking the camshafts and everything, so we were happy with that. We have oil coming through and everything, which is fine. Everything was cleaned up, and in this video we will continue with the engine. I will be putting the timing on and all the accessories and stuff, so yeah, stay tuned, enjoy the video, and let's get to it. And we can start with the middle gasket. Unfortunately I did order the wrong gasket, which is for 2.4, 2.8, so the 2.7 has like a full metal gasket. It's for like a oil separator, and the new clean cover is coming on along with the new bolts. So everything is tied to the Newton meter spec of 8 Newton meters, and next up we'll be putting on this coolant pipe. So everything was cleaned up in the Aquablast machine, and it was painted afterwards with some paint which is like heat resistance and stuff. So luckily the pipe wasn't rusty around the joints and stuff, it wasn't leaking, which is a good thing because you really can't get them. It's a problem to get even the second-hand parts these days for these cars, not even talking about the new parts. So next up we are installing another coolant pipe, which is connecting the whole mine pipe from the cylinders to the water pump, and again new O-rings and new gaskets. I did manage to get genuine gaskets and genuine O-rings for these pipes and the whole coolant system, and again everything is tied to the Newton meter spec. Right now we're getting to a problem because I did remember the pipe was going around, but I completely forgot we have to remove quite a few things, because the water pump have like a bracket where you've seen for a timing belt cover from the back, and the pipe will not go through. So currently we are installing a coolant pipe which on the top have a bracket for additional electric coolant pump. And once it's all installed we can put back the water pump and also the bracket for the air conditioning along with the air compressor. So luckily the water pump have like a paper gasket, so it was reusable, and again everything was tied to the Newton meter spec. So on these engines we don't really do too much like what I'm doing right now, and because a bit of a time pass I couldn't actually remember the correct point that I should have installed some parts, but it's sorted. Next up we are plugging in the coolant supply for the turbos along with new sensors for the coolant temperature. So right now I'm installing the guide or the cover for the timing belt from the back, and we'll be installing the timing belt on its own. I couldn't get the genuine kit unfortunately, so we are using Aina kit along with the tensioner, idler pulleys and everything. So camshaft sprockets are coming on, which are like on the cone, so they are like idle pulleys at the moment until they will be tight. And also we did put the small brackets, which is like a timing thing for the whole engine. So new belt is coming on, and you can see the belt is 5 miles long on these 2.7s, and I believe this was the reason why the next generation engines were built like timing chain driven, because the belt, if you're working on these engines, you probably know if you don't use the engine as much, they can actually have a problem with the grenade tensioner, which is the hydraulic tensioner for one of the pulleys, and catastrophic disaster can actually happen. So the timing is pretty easy because we have a crank which is actually locked from the side in the engine block, and at this point, as you can see, everything is just turning freely and you can just put the belt. However, because the small brackets which are holding on the camshafts are stable, that is the mine timing position, and currently we will be putting the timing tool on. So this bar is actually quite important because that's holding the cams in the position as they should be, and the crank is locked like I mentioned. So the only thing was left now is put the hydraulic tensioner or a damper for one of the pulleys, which will be helping the belt to stay fully tensioned. If you will not replace it, what might happen, as I mentioned, it might lose pressure over the time, how the engine will stop, and on the startup after a very long time the belt will be loose and it can jump the timing over the crank or somewhere. So currently we are installing these long bolts which will pull the camshaft and the sprocket all together. I think we are tightening it to 90 Newton meters, I believe. I'm not sure 100%, but yeah, in the manual everything was there, so everything was tied to the Newton meter spec. So currently we're just helping the damper a bit to have the belt tension. We don't want to over tension it. The belt should be able to twist how I'm twisting it now, like a couple of degrees, and it will literally tension himself how the car will be running. So here we have a reading. We are tightening it to only 55 Newton meters. Good thing we have a digital ratchet, because you will see all the Newton meter spec. And also now we are tightening the idler pulley to 45 Newton meters, and the tensioner pulley will be tied to probably 25 maybe. Let's see. 20, 25. So yeah, everything was tied to the Newton meter spec. I believe we can take all the timing tools off, and we're just gonna check the camshafts timing in between the chains, and we're gonna do the first turn with the engine. So we will do like 2 or 3 turns, check the belt and everything, if it's actually going freely and stuff. But right now I just figured out I forgot to tie the main bolt for the crank pulley, which is tied to 200 Newton meters and additional 180 degrees, which I was not able to do. So historically, first turn of the engine, and everything is lining up nicely, which is good. Everything is spinning, which is good as well. So we put the pin back into the crankshaft, and also we're putting the bar onto the cams just to confirm the timing is spot on. Here we have an additional oil cooler with a thermostat from hell, and I took it out just to try out if the heat exchanger for the coolant should go there as well, but yes, it should. So it will have like an oil cooler, and top of that we will have the bracket with the 2 hoses going into the oil cooler in the front. The reason why we're getting the oil filter on now, because we want to put some oil into the engine and we want to try to turn it. And before we will do that, I'm adding oil into the oil lines for the turbo. So the turbos will not actually spin before the engine will fire up, so it shouldn't get damaged, but we're just gonna be better safe than sorry. Oil is coming on there, and also we will keep the camshaft covers off, and we'll be checking if we have oil supply along with the whole camshafts from the top.
Dobre. Dobre. Kámo, 8. Oh, no.
Okay, so my whole idea why we have a bit of a low compression, I think these are cylinder heads for the yellow one, what we'll be doing. They are already schemed, pressure tested, few valves are replaced, the guides are replaced, some valve seals are replaced, and everything is done to it. The thing what I don't really like is why in the hell are people painting stuff with silver paint, which is easy to rub off and it will look like shite anyways very soon. So before I fit them, we'll probably put them in the machine. We're gonna try to clean them all up, and hopefully it will be a good result. Also, the reason why I think we have a low compression, I think the best way to show you is the oil and the assembly grinding stuff over here. So what I'm thinking is how they were brushing the valves and this and that. Probably there was a small dirt or whatever stuck in one of the exhaust or intake valve, and that is absolutely enough to actually lose compression. So we will try to clean them all off. We will be opening all the valves and everything. We will be putting brake cleaner and try to blow it out and stuff, and we will see the result if the compression will actually improve. Otherwise, we are FUCKAD, and we will have to strip the engine down because probably there will be internal problem. But yeah, let's try the simple stuff first and we will see the result. Okay guys, so progress again. We put the timing on, all the coolant pipes and everything. As usual, one step forward, few steps back, and this cheeky coolant pipe which is going around the cylinder head, I couldn't actually fit it, the pipe on place before I removed the water pump again, and also air conditioning compressor along with the bracket. So currently we were cranking the engine on the starter mode, so we put oil in there, oil seal and everything, and we had like a bit of a good time because oil was squirting from everywhere, especially from the carriers, which is very important, so we had to read that. And then we tried to check the compression, so we went from number 1 to number 6, and number 4 have a variable compression. So reason for that is, don't know, we didn't start the engine because it's just like a dry engine at the moment, but I believe it's something to do with the valve seats or something like that, because we started messing about with the inlet seats, clean them up, blowing with some air and stuff, and it looks like it did help. We went from 8-9 bars to 11.5 to 12, so there was massive oiling from everywhere. It's cleaned up all now. So next up we will degrease the cylinder heads from the top. We will be putting the new gaskets and the rocker cover gaskets and everything, and rocker covers themselves. So we're going to close the whole engine up, and we're going to try to crank it one more time to check the compression to confirm, and we go from there. And we are getting ready the rocker covers to be fitted, so we are degreasing the whole surface, even though the silicone will be put only onto the edges. Also, I'm trying to blow out all the oil which is standing there, because that was right in the corner, so the last thing we want to have is a bit of oil coming out while the silicone is dry up, because it might actually cause a problem that it will wash out the silicone and it will never stick together. So we are applying the silicone onto the edges only, where will the rubber gasket probably not really comply with the whole shape of the cylinder head and stuff. And we are using genuine gaskets, so I did manage to get probably like 15 of them. That was the whole last stock which was available, so we bought all of them out. So it comes with the surrounding gasket and the gasket for the middle for the coil packs. Currently first cover is coming on. You can see how the gasket is thick, so I think the cover what we did in the last video will not actually be touching the camshafts or anything inside the cylinder head. Now we are doing the other side, again applying the silicone onto the edges, and everything was cleaned up and degreased before we put the silicone on there. So the silicone should dry up for a couple of hours, so I don't really want to turn the engine or start the engine like before it's fully dry up, because it will be probably, problematic thing to have with the fresh silicone. So once the covers will be back on, we will continue with the rest of the stuff which we still have to put onto the car, which is like additional pipes and cooling hoses and intake. So we will see if we have actually everything, because I did order quite a lot of things from everywhere which was available. The hoses for the coolant is a bit of a problem to get. Again, they have aftermarket, couldn't get the genuine, and I didn't really want to go for a supply which will be making them on demand. Okay guys, so we put the rocker covers on along with the gaskets and everything. We put a tiny bit of a silicone onto the corners. So right now we have to leave it to dry for a while. Next up we will be putting all these brackets and literally everything what we need to put the covers back on. So plenty of things will gotta come on, so let's get to it. Okay, so we can continue with the bracket, which has like a idler pulley on at the same time. So the idler pulley is there to have like a drive belt coming through it, and onto that pulley there's an opposite thread to a fan, which is just mechanical fan with some kind of idler bearing. So it will only spin to a certain RPM, is not directly connected. Next up we are putting the front crankshaft pulley, which is new as well. We are putting the Loctite onto the bolts, even though the holes are not drilled through the crankshaft, so it's just there to hold them tight. Then we will tie them to a Newton meter spec. And we also are installing all new plastic covers which are covering the timing belt. So everything what we can get new, we did get new, and the covers, they're not really fitting the best, but I do want to have them on there because it's protecting the timing belt from any kind of a dust, degrees, water, screwdrivers and bolts. So once everything is put it back together, we will be starting the engine on the starter again, checking the compression one more time, just to have a confirmation if the compressions are all good. Okay guys, so we put the rocker covers on. These covers for the timing are waiting for the new bolts because they're rusty and some of them are missing. And yeah, we measured the compressions again, and I don't see a big difference in between the cylinders, especially number 4 is alright, it's over 11 bars, so I'm happy with that. And also it's still like a fresh engine, so it didn't went through a heat cycle, and we'll have to wait till we're going to start up the first time and everything was there will literally burn out. So next up, we have loads of things in the shelving, like loads. So whatever will come to my mind, and we'll try to fit it, because from here it will be a bit of a chaos. So let's get to it. So we can continue whatever we have left. So first thing, we will be putting the main coolant pump, which is going in the front, and that is covered with a bracket for a front engine mount. So why I say chaos, because we strip everything down and basically the aftermarket hoses what I order are not exactly the same shape. So we have to be careful what we fit where, because you don't want to have like a broken coolant hose with the wrong angle going somewhere. So right now we are installing a bracket, which was a bit of a mystery for me where it's coming from, but luckily the timing cover did help us a bit to find the position for it. Finishing touches for the coolant hose, a few bolts which were missing here and there are coming back on there. So every single bolt was in the back, however over the time when I ride on it, it just came off, so I couldn't justify where they're from. All the bolts which were rusty, greasy, was clean in the machine, so they look fresh. We will see for how long they will be fresh. And we are installing one of the first coolant hoses. So this one is the longest one, which makes sense. It will go from the side of the thermostat to the bottom, and then the tricky part will be with the rest of the hoses which are going from the other side around the air conditioning pipe to the top of the engine. So that was a bit of a fight. And next up we have a power steering pump, which I didn't replace. We did clean in the machine, but I did plug all the holes and everything, so hopefully nothing gets into it, because it will probably kill the pump instantly. So we are putting the bolts, which were cleaned as well, and we'll be installing the small L-shaped pipe, which is a hydraulic supply from the tank to the power steering pump. What? Once everything was installed and tied to the Newton meter spec, we will be putting the pulleys on along with the drive belt and everything. So here's the pipe. It's coming on, not that easy. But yeah, it was a bit of a pain because I don't think I put it in the correct order. I think the pipe which was put on there shouldn't go together with the big pipe, or I shouldn't put the L-shaped hose along with the power steering pump together onto the bracket. But yeah, the job's done. It was a bit of a pain, but all the clips are on there, holding fine, not an issue. Right now we are putting on the high pressure hose and pipe from the power steering, and next up the knock sensors are coming on. So the knock sensors, we didn't actually replace them. They are still the genuine original knock sensors which I removed from the vehicle. When I stripped the car down, I personally think the engine was running good and there was like no fault codes, only the EGT sensors had a fault. So that was a bit of a pain. Currently we are putting another bracket on, which is like a service bracket to lift the engine up, and it's holding this high pressure hose and the pipe together. So we are installing the bolt along with new washers, and it's all tied down. So currently we are installing the pulley for the hydraulic pump along with the tensioner for the drive belt. The tensioner is new. I did decide to replace it because the old one was a bit sketchy and it was like coming off the center and it didn't really look good. So again, new drive belt is coming on. So the whole assembly of the drive belt is quite easy. You just have to put it onto the old points correctly, and then we will just release the tensioner pulley. So the drive belt is quite long, as you can tell. The reason for that is there's quite lots of components left to right. So on the new cars, they're much shorter and much easier because everything is just next to the crank pulley. This is the mechanical fan, which has the opposite thread coming on. Loads of people are deleting them, removing them, and they are putting like electric fan in the front, but we will leave this one on. So inlet manifold coming on, and this is where we have to stop. Okay, so this is the result so far, how the engine look alike. It still need doing, still need finishing. We just basically do the timing, put the rockers on and everything. The intake is just there. For now, we have new bolts for the intake manifold because the old ones were a bit rusty. And we have still plenty of things to do, modified and stuff. And also I'm missing few hoses, so it's really hard to get them. I need to replace this one because I'm not really happy with it because of that, and also I'm missing a hose from here to the coolant reservoir over there because it's in really sad condition. I can't even put it on the car, but I managed to find a replacement, an aftermarket replacement, not the end of the world, but still it will take a bit of a time to get them over here. Meanwhile, we are trying the intake, which is from an RS4, what I mentioned, and we do have a breather pipe issue or vacuum pressure issue, what we have to sort out to implement the two together. So this is the original breather pipe, which is from an S4. You can see this long pipe, which the replacement from the RS don't have, and also a few other details like there's nothing over there, and there's a line over there. So I want to use this because we can't buy it for the engine for the yellow one, which is over there. That was like in really sad condition, and like I said, we can't get them, so we'll be using that. And we have to do a few adjustments over here. So this is a replacement bike over again. You can't get the genuine one, unfortunately. That is absolutely gone, and it will fit to the point, to the rocker here, onto the other side to the rocker, also the PCV into the Y pipe, also the bottom pipe over there to the middle for the breather. But we still have to put this one somewhere and this one somewhere. So what I did find out, we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 over here, and the original S4 have 1, 2, 3, and the fourth one is nowhere to be seen. So I was checking the catalogs and everything, and I did find out that the valve for the wastegate is actually connected on a T-junction over here, and on the RS4 this is connected onto the pipe which is from the top right over there. And what I'm gonna do, I will leave it as it is because I will be using that as my boost gauge, so we don't have to actually strip down anything from there. Also, we have to do a pipe or hose from there to the front into there, which is here. And the only problem is that this is different diameter compared to that diameter. So again, I have to be ordering a few pipes and hoses to actually make it work. Otherwise, the whole rail and everything will fit onto the inlet manifold, but that is not a problem at all. And yeah, we're still waiting for a few bolts, what I'm not really happy with. They were rusty, so we have to put a new ones on, but the engine looks clean. What do you think? Leave me a comment, because I think it looks cool. I think the engine to the yellow one, which will be built to complete stock, will look even better, because I did find few things what we can improve, do better, do different. So yeah, looking forward to have improvements here and there. That is everything from the video from a S4 B5. Again, thank you for watching. If you have any idea how to help me, leave me a comment, and we'll see you in the next one. It really depends if we will be working on the engine, depends on the parts, or we will be working on the chassis, which is getting through a process of de-rust. It looks better. It still needs a bit of work, and probably a few things would need welding, but it's doable. We will get there. We have everything ready for it, so hopefully I will get it ready for painting from underneath, and then I still don't have the things for powder coating back. So yeah, time is ticking and we have to move on.